as we transition into this first day of the trading week, we can see how overnight they push the markets up relatively in a bullish direction, at least the offset, the outset look. But if you came in last night and watched the live, started at about 12:30 a.m., we talked about the back test areas where we would have to get over, and we'll go over it. And it looks like it did exactly what we were thinking last night, to the point to where now, it's starting to fall flat on itself. And this is where we're really going to get that real identity, the real gut check here, because we talked about coming up to this back test last night. It 100% hit it perfectly. So if you're in a short now, because some are based on last night, maybe you're on it based on your own, fundamental understanding of the market. But just if you are, the one thing I would say is if you are in a short right now, what you're looking for is obviously the continuation down. But if it were to come back up, and let's say it gets above and makes a new high above 102,700, that's one reason why maybe you could back out and then you could retry it if it had to come up higher. But this is a prototypical back test here on a bearish consolidation. When we looked at it last night, we're like, man, this seems uneasy because there's no volume. So we just needed to pay attention. And now we need to see if this falls out, because if it does, it could happen in a relatively quick fashion. That volume coming up was atrocious. It was pedestrian at best. And now it seems like from the onset, what it looks like is we were looking like in the morning, like Ethereum. Ethereum was up, right? It bounced up real hard, but there was really no volume to push it farther. And it's back in those areas now. Like it back tested the previous drop for the most part, right about here. Because you go back to here and then it consolidated, it came down. And it came back up pretty much to that 2,317, like almost identical to that spot. So now it's becoming dangerous here this morning. Like I say, we're one red candle away now from Bitcoin losing 100,000 and maybe even 98. And Ethereum to be retesting that like $2,000 area. We're very close to that. Like XRP's back for the most part at $2, under $2. So this is going to get to an area now where it's really going to test us. See what our patience looks like. I don't know if anybody bought in my community, at least over what they already held from the bear markets on this last bear, this what looks like just a bull trap on the way back up. And then when you look through the markets and you see like gold starting to reverse back up here, it's up only about $16, but it's starting to reverse back up a little bit. Silver, it corrected that downward spiral it was on Friday, which was a corrective phase, but now look how it's returned rally. So now we're going to look to see if it can come back over 37 and ultimately push over about that 37, 32, and then start pushing towards that 39 now. Or if it needs to come down farther and retest the breakout at around 34. That's the only other thing that I could see. But depending on the, obviously, geopolitical stuff and then just the whole economic environment right now. Crude oil is up and down. It was up as much as 2%, down a little bit more than it is now. Let's see. I have to delete this off of here. You guys know of the position because I want to make sure that I have. It's a silver miner that I have, but it doesn't pay like a relative or like a dividend like per se, like I would like. Ghost. Or do you want to go outside? It's Ghost. It's hot. I know, but it's already 92 degrees here. I might have to get up and let my cat out. But I want to put this on here at least. I gotta let my dog out, or my cat out real quick, but if you are in here, please make sure that like button so that YouTube recommends this update, or well, this live in particular. I would greatly, 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 greatly appreciate that. Let's see. I want to make sure this is just okay. Okay, DVS. It's a tricky one because it's the way that there's two of them that are similar because of web's defined, and I'm always like, which. But this, if you know how like when you trade an asset class and you have your outlier, or you're taking a flyer on one particular company. Let's just say that would be the particular company I'm taking a flyer on. But I'm gonna be right back. I just gotta let my cat out. Gotta let my cat out. We're outside. It's just hot. It's hot. All right. Sorry about that. My cat just wanted to go out. And the mail came, and I seen the church sent some envelopes because I like to go on Sundays, and they put my name, Thomas Spicy, Spicey. Spicy indeed. Spicy indeed. Let's see. XRP King, welcome in, and thanks for being in Tom's Army for your first month with the emoji badge and me being abducted by aliens. And it is my face superimposed down there for sure. Copper Vein, welcome in. Omar, good morning, says my hero Tom. Love it. Wales, Josie Wales, welcome in, and thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 1 year with the I Told You So badge. Ben Graham, good morning, or good afternoon. Big Dog, welcome in, and thanks for being in Tom's Army for your second month with the Dusty's Outhouse Crypto News. Emoji badge. Says, what's up, Tom? Your live last night was amazing, sir. Thank you for all you do. Oh, you are welcome. Oh, it was I like I was saying last night, it's like I come on so much because I think it's the best way I can show my appreciation for the audience is by being present and not just like in an update all the time if I have the ability. You know, and like tonight, I don't know, it's going to be a little busy. So I'm like, it's either I do a live now or maybe no live at 6, but maybe I could do a half hour at midnight again if everybody's asleep in the house. And because I liked that crowd, it was nice, and we were able to, you know what I liked about it, we were able to see the market while it was running up to this back test. Remember we talked about it, and more than just Bitcoin, I think last night went over Bitcoin, targeted the back test, and look how perfectly it hit. That was just an on the money so far hit, because that would be the bearish rejection if it happens. Now it can pull up still, I'm just saying that's where it would hit a prototypical one. We talked about last night, in case you weren't here, H-bar. We went real deep on H-bar. And we just looked at how it's either in kind of like this little wedge setup, or if you take it from the outline, it's in this channel that continues to fall. And then if it does come back down, it needs to break out past here. Otherwise, if it comes to 11.9 and breaks through, it's going to bring us almost to like a 50% drop down. So that's something we talked about. And right now it seems to have took the elevator up and it's taken the progressive stairs down. So that's why we need to, you know, be very careful at this moment, because everything that looks like a good deal, it's just like data. Data had that big outrise, and look what data just did. It's basically giving it back right now. So you just got to be careful, you know, with some of this, because if it is bearish momentum, it's going to do the best it can do to trap people. And that's what I'm trying to avoid here. Like even Theta, it was at like 58, 59. If it was something here, you would see more than that. Look at that volume. I mean, it's slapping us in the face. It is just slapping us in the face, telling us like, listen, guys, I know you want to buy, but what's the first premise of good trading, momentum? You want volume. And like MXC and ZBCN just dropped a huge amount. So they're having that little relief rally now. And now we'll see what ends up happening. Oh, I didn't even realize that volume was up. Having a little relief rally on the side. But Ethereum's the gatekeeper right now. We're seeing what we need to see. It's going to get scary here, I think. Unless, like we said yesterday, void of volume, this can only end one way. It's just void of volume. This can only end one way. And look at that big topping reversal, and the fact that it's just doing it like when we drew the stair stepper is what makes it scary. Because if it does do it the whole way, I mean, you're talking about a significant cutoff in the market cap. So it's one thing to want to buy the dip, but we got to make sure this is the actual dip, because it very well, I don't know if it is. Like I've been saying, I'm not sure it is. I think the actual dip would start at 91,800 and some change at that CME gap. I think that would be a legitimate starting point. Or if XRP was at $1.50, because now you can see the groundwork being laid. I know a lot of people are like, Tom, how's XRP going to get to $1.50? It was at like 265 and 240 and 230 for a while. And it's like, if Bitcoin's only going to 91,800, how's it going? Now we see the avenue. A 10,000 point drop on Bitcoin would absolutely get XRP to $1.50. We can see the progressive drop happening right now. It's crazy. So, not crazy in a sense that we don't know what's happening, but just crazy in the moment, because we're legitimately at that point. There's no, if it fades right now, there's no going back. This was the back test right now. And that 3 hour turned into a very bearish candle now. So we'll see how this responds. In the daily right now, or the 4 hourly, I mean, it's not looking great. That's a death cross, and it validated it on the 20-day now. On a back test. That's very bearish. The fact the 50, like we talked about overnight, already came through the 200. So you get a signal that you're having a short-term pattern flip in the 4 hourly, especially when the 20 crosses the 200 to form the death cross. When the 50 crosses the 200, now you're getting a little bit of confirmation. To get the validation, I guess you could look at it either way. No, I would say validation would be the 100 crossing, or 50 crossing the 200, because then the overall confirmation would come when the 100 crosses the 200 that you are having a short-term pattern reversal. And look how close the 100 is to crossing the 200, giving us the overall confirmation. So even going against our own bias, we have to pay attention to that signal. And I understand it's a lagging indicator, but that's how, even though it's a death cross, why somebody would buy the short right there, and then it comes up and liquidates a lot of people. We talked about it when this motion was happening, how it would do that. And it came just under 99,000, and then the pullback. And that's why it's like, let's just, for the hypothetical purposes, say Bitcoin just rolls through right now. Think of the short people that came in at 99,000 area. It comes up 3.7%, and they're like, oh my God. And most people aren't taking a 10 or 5x. At 10x, that's like an almost 40% loss, if not a little bit more. No, 37%. But people are taking 25, 50, 70. They want the easy money. That's retail. Because the less money you have to put into a leverage, the higher leverage, in theory, you're taking. Hey, if the guy's got $15,000 and wants to do a, 150, or let's see, $40,000 trade or $45,000 trade, he's just got to do a 3x. But if you've only got $4,500, you got to do 10 times that leverage. So the guy who put 3x only needs it to go down about 30% to get liquidated in most cases. But the guy who buys, 10x only needs it to go down 3%. So that's a big difference. And then you go to the further point. What about the guy who only has $400 who wants to have a 40,000 or 450? He's taking out 100x leverage. Now he's limited himself to a 0.9% market movement. Had low liquidation. You know, so it's all about the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, simply for the fact that the rich can put less capital. I'm telling you, that's a big part of this game. It's just like if you can't afford a house, or you got to take out more of a loan, or you have, you know, a tyrant. It's the same thing. If you have less money, and I'm not targeting anybody, I'm just saying this is, to me, this is the scariest thing when you realize this, is the reason why time over time the heavier investors win and the poorer people will lose 95 to 98% of the time, is because when you have less money, you've got to go through unconventional means to make that money stretch. So a lot of times you look at the leverage trade. Wait a minute, 100,800. I thought it was. Oh, it went down. Okay, so it went down like 400 or 500 while I've been just talking. But that's what ends up happening. So we're trying to increase our capital in such a quick fashion, but we've got to just kind of take the steps. Because right now, anybody who decided on a 35x going long, when they woke up this morning seeing Bitcoin over 101,800, they're sweating right now in some of their categories. Because even on XRP, if you took it out at 202 thinking, okay, this is looking good, well, you're down about 1.6%. But if you took a 20x trade, you're 30+%. If you took a 30x, you see where I'm going. If you were at 50x, you are screwed right now. So that's why I prefer spot, but I understand both sides of it. So now we need to see Bitcoin drop. Now we have to see if it back tests the drop. Just like when it went up, we tried to back test initially, and we hit it first and then went back up to that 102,000 plus area, but then we just dropped right through. Now we're back testing this move to see if it's official. The one bad thing here on the 4 hourly is we made a new low. So now, I mean, we could back test all the way back up even, but we made a new low there, which is interesting. That volume, man, that is so worrisome. It's not, it didn't even flip it to a green candle yet, which is amazing. 1.37, so 1,030 or 370 Bitcoin was sold on this particular exchange here on that drop on Sunday. Basically the finalization. Now, when it has a chance to rebound here as it's pulled up, I mean, you've had 745 Bitcoin and it hasn't even flipped it from a red to green candle. I mean, there's still opportunity here with this candle. Don't get me wrong. There's 7 hours left. That's why I keep saying it's either got to find volume here, or it's just going to sink here. And it's just the start of the week, so that would mean it would be an ugly week. The fact XRP is under $2 is alarming. The other thing you got to remember is after a drop like that, I know we came back up, but now we're probably, even if we end up flipping bullish, going to have to retest that earlier drop point. That's the other problem here. Because now you've basically left a short-term gap because it never, look how quick it came up. So now you're dealing with that same issue. Now you've left a short-term gap coming all the way up and never back testing the move up. So now you've gapped area. So now it's kind of a no man's land here. It's gapped itself. You know, now we've gapped ourselves into an area where we're like, uh-oh. You know, now we've actually got to do something here. And it looks like the play would be to the downside. Good early afternoon. And I'll get to the comments in just a second. I know there's a lot of comments. I didn't realize there was 148 people in here, I will be honest, until I just looked over here. But I'm glad there's a lot of people, because it is very, very important where we're at right now. And I think you guys can see what's developing here. And we're focused on Bitcoin for just a minute, but once I do the intro, I promise we'll get into XRP. We'll get into like the XRP Bitcoin pairing. We'll see if there's any news and notes. We'll see the geopolitical stuff. If it pops up anywhere, I'm not going to do a deep dive. I just want to see if it's a general narrative. And other than that, I'm just thankful to have all of you here. Make sure to hit the like button, and we'll get through this. So good early afternoon. 12:22 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on this Monday, June 23rd, 2025. I'm XRP Future Millionaire, and I reside in the great state of Michigan. I don't know what it is, but I feel like we've honed in even more, if that's even possible. I feel like our understanding of the market's now moved into such a micro tone that we're kind of staying out ahead of it, and it feels pretty good. Honestly, this feels pretty good. Because I feel like not just me, but as a community, we're understanding this more. Now we're understanding how to make money to a higher degree on these up and down, up and down, the up and down, especially when it's in bearish momentum. So every time, so you find the layers. So now the next layer, if we don't overtake that death cross, would be now if you look to the downside, now we're going to have to take out 97,800 roughly. And once we take that out, then we're going to have around 91,800. You know, so that would be my two big zones there would be 97,800. And then the fair value, or the gap, the bearish gap in the Chicago Mercantile Futures Exchange, the CME gap they call it, that's at 91,800 and some change. I wonder if AI still says it's in the same spot. I'm always curious.
A Bitcoin CME gap refers to a price discrepancy on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, CME, Bitcoin futures chart. These gaps occur because the traditional CME market is closed on weekends, while the cryptocurrency market trades 24/7.
Whoops. A notable bearish CME gap around 78,000 to 80,700. This gap was formed in November of 2024 and has been mentioned as a potential magnet for the price. And I don't want to talk about that one yet because the more looming one, I think it's 91,800 and some change, but it's between another CME gap at 91,600 to 93,400 zone. So there's that one, and then there's a massive new CME gap from 84,650. So I mean, that's the low part of it, but I still think it plays more into the 91,600, and then forget that new massive one they put out, because I would just say the one from November from 78 to 80,000 supersedes the one from 84 to 94, and then you've got the micro one from 91,600, which I think is that 91,800 and some change CME gap. So just remember those exist. So I don't think we go anywhere until we fill those. I really don't. And, you know, I know I got some criticism in the comments because they're like, oh, I thought it was going to $1.50. It's like, I'm just showing you an area, and just because it goes to $1.94 and bounces right back up to back test the drop, like, you know, it's not going to happen in 30 seconds. But we're starting to see that bearish momentum form that is starting to make it a little more clear that this might be exactly what's happening. And if you haven't taken the proper precaution, or if you're just, you know, maybe not, and it's not everybody's fault, guys. You might not be as aware of how these charts work, you know, and it can just become a dangerous thing. Look at Ethereum's dropping off right now, and it back tested, so did Bitcoin. And the crazy thing is, even when these tokens drop, Bitcoin dominance is basically staying the same. It's crazy. Red Sea Dragon, good early afternoon. Daniel, welcome in. Trigger warning, I don't feel good at all about this market. Me neither. It just doesn't feel good. It feels wrong in so many ways. XRP King says, do you think it's the same with H-bar? No, you went through it for me last night, and I appreciate it. I do think it is. I think this is all the same. I don't think there's going to be one exception if Bitcoin drops. You get the outliers like MXC that are kind of on opposite, and ZBCM, but they're ultimately probably just going to fall back through. We watched it with data just the other day, a 28% rise, and now it's down 7. But, you know, we'll see how this plays out. But traditionally, these are all going to play down lower until we bust out of this bear market, you know, setting. They're going to end up falling farther than they started, and that's the problem because there's no volume. See, volume dictates price. And right now, the volume is dictating lower prices because think of it as if you're selling a product. You're selling it for $65. You have X amount of capital. You're only getting 25% of the people you thought were going to buy are buying. Well, you got 75% of the product and you still got a factory running, people that have jobs. So now you're like, uh-oh. It's either we lower this price and try to find the proper buy area so people who either want it or they think it's the, you know, the actual fair price, you got to find that stabilization. So then they lower the price by 10, 15%, and they do another study. Well, now 30% of the people, okay, well, now we need to lower it more because clearly we've overvalued our own product and we got to take less of the profit because we're kind of being scumbags here, you know, in the business sense. So then they cut it down to the proper price, and then I get a 75% is being bought. And now in inventory, you're like, oh, okay, this isn't bad. And then you might have a clearance sale once every 3 months to clear out the other 25%. And then you go back to the newer product. And then you're like, well, here's the new one and there's the old one. Kind of like the new model computer to the old one. That's all they do. So with crypto, think of it that way. If it's getting to a certain price and there's not enough buyers, like right now, the demand isn't. So if we have a lack of buyers now, why would they think these same buyers that are very little buying would be the ones who, let's put it this way, because there's so low of volume, what makes the market makers think that somebody who wouldn't buy it at 100,000 is going to buy it at 107? So now they got to think the other way. Okay, well, they didn't bite at 102 this morning or 102.4, and they didn't bite at 101.8. You know, even when we tried to trick them, they didn't bite. So now they come to 98 or 100 and they go to the psychological level. Well, nobody bought it. Now we came up one last time and people still didn't buy it. Well, we got no choice. Turn the algorithm down. So now we're going to target 97.8. Well, if nobody wants it there, we'll go down to the CME because that's where a lot of technical traders will hide out. And if there's not enough retail hiding out there, we'll go back to the gap that was created back last, you know, November, December in 24. And then if that doesn't fill, we'll go down even farther. And if those don't fill, we'll back test the cup and handle because clearly somebody's going to be down there at 62K. So they're going to do these steps until they find the appropriate spot where retail says, okay, I can buy this. And institutions are just buying. Now, what I am waiting so much for, and if you are in this, if it happens, you are going to be so freaking rich if you're in a short. With MicroStrategy having 355,000 tokens, at a certain level, he's going to get margin called. So, and it happened a little bit in 21 and 22, and it caused a catastrophic drop. And they tried to hide it behind other things. But it was a big part was because he was getting awfully close. And then you had short groups that were trying to hunt him out until some regulations came in to stop that from happening. So, you know, there's that side of this too. Real quick, because a lot of people ask me about my commodities, I figured I would do it in a much easier way today, just to show you the equity stake that I have in each of them. So this was, as of you can see, since the recent, it's up, I don't know, $8,000. But the main point of this is the value that it's, so you have an equity fund. So you have Barrett, Fortuna, Dolly Varden, Silver. Those are in the equity portion, and that's how much I invested of my own money. Or no, not of my own money. Oh, yeah, that is what I invested. Oh, no, that's what it's worth now. Never mind. That's what it's worth now. And then you have the total, the global equities are B2 Gold, First Majestic Silver, Pan America Silver. And then you have U.S. Mid Small Cap, which is Hecla. And the reason I like Hecla is it's the United States single largest silver producer. So with the expansion of silver prices that I believe are coming, I think that you want to have the biggest producer in the USA. So I have exposure all across. And they're value funds. That's all these commodity or mining stocks are. They're technically value funds. Let's see. John Bugathorpe, welcome in. And thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 1 year. I told you so bad. It's messy. Blockchain backer said this will happen weeks ago. A last C-wave dump. Wait a minute, I thought you guys came in about 2 months ago and said blockchain backer said we were going to all, you know, back above all-time highs. To be fair, Messi, I've been saying this since December. This exact setup. Even the drop down to 71 or 72,000 when we went back down, I called that drop too, if you guys remember. And then the retest back up, and now what we've been doing. I appreciate you want a blockchain backer, but he's wrong all the time. Nope, I'm not going there. I appreciate your outlook, and if you want to check that out, You guys can make your own educated and informed decision. Lonzo says, once we have legislation on cryptos and the effects of tariff show, I absolutely foresee big rate cuts at that point. I do too. I just think the markets, it makes the most sense to drop it like a knife cutting through butter. And it'll make it a lot easier for Congress and for the Federal Reserve, I should say, the Central Bank of the USA, to cut rates. Because the people will be begging the government. And you know the scariest word in the English language? Hi, we're from the government, and we're here to help. Okay. Let's see. End of July or September, we should see what you're talking. I think so. We'll get that rate cut at some points. Ascending wedge, bear flag on that Bitcoin chart. Oh, it's horrible. What's happening? It's not good. But we had that chart, Nick, last night a couple different ways, but with it about to come up and back test, that made the most sense to us because it lined up perfectly with the death cross that was lining up. And we figured that was going to be the make it or break it point. Because at first I was like 101,800, but then when we reevaluated, I'm like, no, wait a minute. 102,000. Or no, 101,000. Yeah, 102,800 area, which is where it came up. And the only reason why we thought last night that made a lot of sense is because in the 4 hourly, that's where the death cross met. And just the way it met right now, we're at a point right now, like if we fall under 100K, that's the psychological point. I think XRP and everything else is telling us. Look how far below $2 it's already dropped. It's an incredible thing. XRP King says, hey Tom, been watching you for a while and it's my first month with your army. I appreciate everything you do for us. I'm a hardworking man and I'm at paycheck to paycheck. Oh, my friend, I appreciate you just watching. I hope that, you know, with you being able to watch daily and being a long-term viewer, you're starting to understand the ebb and flows now. And you can start to capitalize more, like, because it's not an all-in-one moment. So if you start with 2,000 and you can get it up to 2,500 and then you're waiting for that next hit and then you've got 2,500 instead of 2,000 to put into play. And then the next time you double it, now you got 5,000 and X, Y, and, you know, and then you start to follow a plan. And then after you make, you know, 10, 15,000, you start to put a little bit into precious metals for the pure fact that you're not touching those bars and it becomes a store of value. And it's kind of like just a savings account, a private savings account that you never touch and you pass on to the next generation. As if it doesn't exist. It's the only way to gain generational wealth. And that's what I'm gonna do for the Spica family, you know, in the years to come. Ooh, that's ugly. But I mean, can I ask you guys an honest question? Because I did see some donations. Do you at least feel good about the fact that it feels like we're staying out ahead of this and we're not getting caught off guard? Do you take solace in that at all? But now this is where Bitcoin's backtesting to see if remember what I said about the 100,000 level? This is where we're trying to see if there's anybody that's trying to save this level. That's what's happening right now. And we'll see. It's going to put up you'd think it'd put up a little bit of fight, but XRP put up zero fight at $2 once it came through. Wales, Josie Wales, welcome in and thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 1 year with the I Told You So Bad. Winford says blockchain backer is 90% wrong all the time. There's always that 10%. Remember I said 90%, well I say 95% usually lose and 5% know what's happening, are in the know. Then you got the imitators. Omar says, you remember when all my savings got liquidated on ByBitBot? I am always spot from that. Oh, absolutely, Omar. Yeah, on Bybit, I remember it had an unbelievable candle that spiked, literally just from a trading bot, and it came right back up and then above. If I'm not wrong, you would have done rather well on that trade outside of that fake liquidation that probably liquidated all of that side of the traders. It was crazy. And that was one of those days too when I'm like, look at that. Like they do these wicks even before big moves because, like, look just now. Remember yesterday when I said I sold the short? And the pure fact was I knew I could wait for it to go back up and open it and not have to sit through the whole thing. And then it's just you reevaluate, and that's all I did. And we went over the levels yesterday. And because those are the back tests. Now, I'm afraid this is going to get ugly on my community. I've said it over and over. I don't feel like we're buying the dip here. So I've been begging everybody to kind of wait and get confirmation. Even if it costs you 3 to 5% on the top side because it goes up, just at least let's get this confirmation. Because I believe this gap is meant to be filled. Just the way the chart's set up. And it could be worse than that, because if you want to have a real catastrophic collapse, imagine Bitcoin drops 30% from here, 33%, and it backtests the cup and handle breakout. If that happened, you're guaranteed to get rate cuts, because the stock market, I'm sure, is not doing well today. Nope. It was even a joke it was up today at all. Look at gold now. It's an outlier right now, up almost 20 bucks right now. Silver starting to push up again. It's at least steadily back over 36, a point that we haven't been able to break for a long time. Silver's breaking out of the cup and handle now that it's been in since the 1970s. So something's happening across the markets. But like we said, Bitcoin's going to try to fight this level with all it's got right now, because it's trying not to give up 100K. It's doing, look how it's fighting. And in the moment, you can see exactly what's happening. It's trying to fight off this big drop. It's trying, basically what Bitcoin's doing is it's trying to save itself from dropping at least 8.5% right now. In the short term, it's trying to save a 2.2% drop to 97,800. So you're going to get this extreme volatility right now. Just extreme. So I'm just glad we're here together. We've been talking about this for 36 minutes. Lonzo, thank you so much for the $5 donation. And thank you so much for being here for so long. You said, can you give me your TA on XLR, Tom, please? And thank you. Sure. I can do that. I got to reset this this YouTube thing. It's not letting me move the comments. You know how it does it, like I always say. Okay, there we go. Yes, I can, Lonzo. Let me take a look at XLR. And see, Bitcoin's defending right now. I figured it would have to. It couldn't just come through and not defend it a couple of times. You know, it's got to defend it. Like, it's got, this is where it's trying to see how many buyers are in this range. And it stretched to 99,700, I think it was. Grabbed whoever was down there. Now it's going to see what it can do on the way back up. And if it finds a flat wall, then the bot's going to have to turn it down even farther. And then I believe the next spot would be about 97,800 now if this fails. So, but we'll see. We're stuck in this extreme volatility and it's craziness. It doesn't feel safe for anybody when you start looking at this, unless you're just staring from the sidelines or you have a strategic plan that you're sticking to. XLR is down 1.58%. Look at XRP Healthcare up about 9%. Trying to show testicular fortitude here today. XLR's got that 4-hour death cross just like Bitcoin was. Came up and back tested it. And now if it makes a new low below 31.87, you're going to come all the way down. You'll bust this pattern. Next area would be down to 30. Then you're going to have to come all the way down to like 27. Again, this could get ugly. Yeah. Because if you're asking me, these could stretch out to extended drops. That weekly, the fact that it's starting to progress to the downside, it's got to make a decision. There was an extreme candle of volume there, and then it just kind of, it's hard to say though because it was green, but even though it was way up on the volume, look how far it pulled down before the next week. So I would say honestly, I know it's disguised as green, but that didn't last for very long. And a lot of that candle was the pull back down, it looks like. So unless Bitcoin finds volume, these are all going to come 20, 30%. That's my fear. From here. Not from where we started, but literally from here. If Bitcoin pulls down, but it's trying to defend the turf. So expect some defense here today. I don't think it can just honestly just give it all away. It's going to defend this with all it's got, for sure. Areli, welcome in, says, morning, everyone working but listening. Absolutely. Hold on, Tommy. Daddy's almost done. Just about 10 minutes. Yeah, only about 10 minutes. I'll probably end this at 50 minutes because my son's out here. Tyndale, welcome in. So what's the deal? Bitcoin up or down? I think you need to listen and make your own educated decision, because if you're asking me at this point, you have to rewatch, because I've given you every single thing you need to know to make that decision. We will never know if it's actually going up or down. We got to go by confirmations. And right now, we're trying to see if the 4-hour death cross is going to get that validation to break down. It's got the back test, but now we need to see if it's going to get the follow through. And it's filling gaps right now. So it had that drop, and now it's back testing the drop. So I would expect 101,000 roughly. I'm almost done, Tommy. I would expect 101,000 roughly if it wants to back test that first drop. Then if it wants to pull back up, we'll see. So that's what we're doing right now. So, and it came, I think it came right up to there. So I think we've come pretty close to that. So we don't know. We have to see. We're thinking it'll go down to the CME gap at 91,800 at minimum, but nobody can really know. Nobody can really know. But if it breaks out and we get some volume, then we can see if it's going to take the up direction. Frankie Fresh, welcome in, along with Joseph Euler. Thank you both for being in Tom's Army 3+ months of the XP Meteor. Jorge, good morning or good early afternoon. Thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 6 months with the XP Predictor. Says remember to hit that like button and consider subscribing to Tom's channel. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Thank you so much for that, Jorge, and thanks for being a very trusted mod as well. Gator, welcome in, and thanks for being in Tom's Army for your first month with the emoji badge of me being abducted by aliens. I know, it's great to see you in here for once during the live. I do see your comments after the live, though, so I know you're around. Hey, Tom, when you get a chance, were you ever able to get on MetalPay app on the XRP? I was not yet. I apologize, Lonzo. I try to remember that. I'm sorry, I just been like, there's been so much stuff going on lately that my mind is like, I try to do everything, but the day goes by so quick that I took a picture of that out. At least it's in my phone. And thank you for the $5 donation, friend. I really appreciate that. I really do want to look into that. It's not that I'm intentionally not trying to. Kryptonian, good morning, and thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 1 year. I told you so bad. Says get the like, but I think now we're doing well. I think you spoke some sense. He said it at 12:22, so the sign of the angels helped pull this up as well. 152 people watching, 121 likes. That's fair. That's super fair. Tyndale says the problem with selling now is it's almost impossible time to buy. Exactly, that is a big problem right now with selling. I don't disagree with you. I told somebody yesterday who asked me, I said, you're literally in no man's land when they asked me at midnight. And I said, honestly, I can't make that decision for you, but, you know, this is a difficult spot because you really don't know. You know, you are at either that back test where we're actually going to push forward, or, you know, it's something worse. Much, much, much worse. You know, so that's why we have to be very careful. And we want to get this validation, but it makes it difficult to sell something, especially if you haven't sold anything by now, or you just bought something. You're not necessarily going to just liquidate right now. I get it. We're just trying to, you know, we're trying to look at all angles here. Oh yeah, Frankie Fresh. Oh crap, name. Janine. Either Janine or Janina. Janine, I don't know. It was early AM. But Frankie Fresh, a significant other, likes to watch our stuff as well. And I know he woke her up last night, and she woke up to watch our content, which was awesome. So I think it's either Janine. I don't know. I'm kind of, or Janine. But that was awesome. So if you're watching, good early afternoon, and hopefully, you know, we can get this right so that we can make an educated decision here. Right now we're back testing right now, that gap area. So is Ethereum. Ethereum was up like 3.5% this morning, so that was a rather quick drop through. That's a little bit concerning. Let's see. Miko, welcome in. Lonzo, I'm not taking any substantial profits until I have dumb life-changing money. This is my retirement account. Hey, that's fair. It's fair. Daddy DD says it's going down, Tom, because of the U.S. and Iran situation. That's what we were talking about with the geopolitical tension. I don't say Iran and Israel because I know how the algorithm works and it can get me banned by saying the wrong words. So I just say the geopolitical tension. You know, so Oh yeah, I mean, I am too waiting for some other country to come out and say something that's going to further escalate this down, because with just the landscape we're in, it seems to make more sense on the downward tug, and it is what it is, you know. It is what it is right now. We're not telling the market we want it to go down. We're making precaution plans, and then we look at the rest of it. You know, because everything's uncertain, even gold. So it's all uncertain right now. If you look at everything, look how uncertain the market is. It's not exactly sure what to do right now. Look at crude oil down 2.6%. So the market is definitely shaky at best. The Dow doesn't know what the hell to do. It's been up and down, left and right. The US dollar can't gain any traction. It's down 0.25% roughly. Remember LAES we've been waiting for? We said, let's wait for these drops, see where the proper support is. And we were thinking that that could be some kind of rising wedge form. And we really wanted to wait until it came down here to see how it reacted. We made the right decision, I think. I think we made the right decision. And this goes into the hydrogen and the quantum, or not, the quantum computing. I'm sorry, I don't know why I said hydrogen. But the quantum computing. And this is basically the way they bring AI and robotics together with the quantum computers. And I've talked about this before. If you want something to scramble your brain, like a conspiracy or a way to think forward, what happens when quantum computing and AI become smart enough? And we know that cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, is just a digital block. What happens when quantum computing meets AI and the transgression is high enough? And we're basically there. I think we are right now. And I think this is what some of these crypto is being stolen. I think they're actually hacking in through quantum computing and through AI ways. We just don't get told. So what happens when this becomes more mainstream and the right hacking group gets it? And there's 25 million total Bitcoin. What happens when they just artificially simulate the digital blocks with quantum computers with the help of AI, and then they're able to sell it artificially onto the market, creating fake Bitcoin? Just like how you have the fake US dollar, how people, you know, used to mimic it for years. They'd make their own fake US dollar and it would end up in circulation until somebody realized it was fake. I'm waiting for that day on cryptocurrency. That's why I think we're getting closer and closer to being obsolete, especially in Bitcoin and some of these older style ones that don't have the advanced security structures in place. That's something that's always terrified me. So then when I thought about quantum computing, that's how I found LAES, which is Seals SQ. They deal with quantum computing. And when you start to dig deeper into it, they're very, very, very early. It's got a price surge up and down over its time. But I mean, this is something that is building. And I think this is going to be it's going to be a big thing. Look at in June, it's they talked about on June 23rd now. Hey, wait a minute, that's today. What's the development? Seals Q, Colibri TD, and XDigit announced plan to develop a breakthrough quantum computing-based solution set to revolutionize semiconductor wafer yields. Hey, there you go. We won't read this today, but that's something we'll read later because we got more to cover here. But it's coming down to the end of my live. But that's something we'll definitely talk about soon. Especially the closer, in my opinion, we get down to that buy zone. Because I really think when it comes down here, we really need to pay some serious attention. Unless it just comes down and resets. That's the only other scenario if it breaks that real quick. Because if you look like this, it's too low though. You see if you do that. Now if you go like this, but then it slipped through. So it's like, what is it really? So, I don't know. I think you go from here and start the uptrend, though, me personally. So, it's either going to hold that level or you're going to come all the way back down to here. That's the point. So, yeah, we can look at it at 235, but if we have a whole-scale market collapse and we come back down to the uptrend area, well, then we might have to wait a little bit longer. Actually, it's a little bit higher. I'm sorry, my brain works in a weird way, and I watch 100 things at once because I know you only get one chance at this stuff to get it in the right spot. So 235 would be the next area that we would be watching. So like I do this with crypto, but it's not just crypto. I do it with commodities, emerging markets, everything. If you know the charts and you understand like some people would be like, what do you classify yourself as? If I was actually working a real job doing what I do now, they would just consider me an economist. You know, whether or not I buy into the general narrative or I had my own free thinking is another thing. But I think you could generalize what I do as being a economist that has a better than normal understanding of the actual technical charts. I think that's fair. And the only reason it's a better than normal understanding is because I haven't been manipulated by schooling when it comes to charting. Because I had to do it myself. So, you know, what I see is just what the reality of the charts show. But yeah, Bitcoin tried to defend itself. It got up to 101K, right where it should for that back test. Let's see. Let me see what else I missed. S. Wimbush, holy smokes. Thank you so much for joining Tom's Army. You just made me the happiest person in the world today. We had somebody join Tom's Army at 12:30 in the morning as well, or 1 a.m., which was unbelievable as well. So thank you so much for that, S. Wimbush. That's so awesome. Love the picture of the dog on your picture too. But thank you so much for that. Awesome. SW, unbelievable. Rick, thank you so much for being a very trusted mod and acknowledging SW along with Jorge. I love it. Nick, what did Nick say? Somebody said thank you, Nick. Mr. Tally, welcome, and one more rich bro. Have a fat J together. That's the plan. My plan is for us all to meet up on one of the Great Lakes, even if you're from Europe or Japan or the Asian countries or anywhere. Greece, anywhere out there. Italy, Middle Eastern, any of the countries. We can bring all of our different ethnicities and backgrounds into one area, and people would probably be freaking the fuck out on the Great Lakes. Be like, what the hell's going on with all these different people? But we would know. And the beauty of it is, what I would do is, if we got to that situation, I'm being honest. I've already told Julie, and she's on board. I would buy a lake house, and it would be open for everybody. And you would just have to have that integrity to not ruin the place. You leave it better than when you came. You leave it more stocked than when you came, because you want to pass the abundance on to the next person from the community who's there. And that's something that I am striving for. But it's probably not going to happen for us until I'm probably closer to my mid to late 40s. And I'm only 41 right now. So this is my plan, but we got to do the proper cycles. And if we do it proper by maybe not this end of this cycle, unless it does it in an extraordinary way, because we're getting a second chance here to reaccumulate after having substantial, 4 to 7x profits, 10x profits on some. And now we get to wait for it to come back down. This is a gift because we're able to read these charts like this if it comes all the way through. I've got an extraordinary amount of capital on the side. And I'm waiting for that ultimate opportunity, like literally that ultimate opportunity. And I don't know which one is going to be the ultimate opportunity, but it very well might be. Oh my God, XDC is down to 3.4 cents. Or 3.2 cents. And I take, a little bit of a leap. Or I know with DGB I'm buying 2 million tokens, if not more, when it gets to where it's going again. I'm just glad that I was able to get out of the way 30% ago and do what I had to do when I rebought back and let it ride up 10%. But then I'm like, what am I doing? These stupid swing trades are stupid when it's like this, because I'm looking at it for a big drop. So, if it gets down to 0.004 or something, you're talking about 2 million tokens is only going to cost 8,000. Instead of when I sold it the last time, it was like 17 or 18,000. And actually it was like 18,000. And now it's worth 14,000. So you see, that's a $4,000 savings that can go into something else now. That's the point. It would pain me to get rid of Algo, but it was, it was coming down near 30 and 28. And it's like, unfortunately, I see a big drop. And the same thing with IOTA and all these other ones, VeChain and ZIL. And now I look at ZIL and I'm like, oh my God, ZIL is at under a penny again. VeChain is at under 2 cents. VELO is almost back under a penny. Quant's at $88. And that was one of them that we targeted big time and said, listen, big rising wedge, and it's got to at least come down, and it'll probably try to back test this area again. And that's 77, but we were thinking maybe it could come all the way and bust that back through because of just the landscape right now. But there was a lot of traps set, which was insane. But look at MXC. Remember, it was up 15% when we started. Now it's only up 0.5, or it was up 12% or whatever it was. Gave it all back already. You know, that's what seems to be happening here. I didn't know it was going to happen that quick. Silver miners seem to be having, you know, bargain dipping right now. Hecla, the U.S.'s largest silver producer, because they're trying to find their support as Bitcoin's trying to finalize resistance. We're in a dangerous spot here. We are in a very, very dangerous spot. It's been 54 minutes now. My son's probably like, Dad, what are you doing, jackass? Come on now. XRP Healthcare. Alonzo, thank you for another $5 donation. Wow. Says, I believe XRP Healthcare stands to be the biggest XRP meme utility coin. I 100% agree with that. And I am begging it to drop to 2 cents, because that's another one. If it drops down and it gives me another opportunity, as long as it's below 3 cents, I'm willing to start buying it again. And in this event, I'm not going to have 64,000. I'm talking about I want at least 250,000 of those tokens. I'm not kidding. I want at least 250,000 XRP Healthcare. Minimum. Minimum. And I know that's going to cost me $5,000 to $6,000 if I buy an additional 250,000 when it gets down there to make it 300,000+. I should verify. I want an additional 250,000. So, because the supply is drying up, it's getting smaller and smaller, and we're getting closer and closer to the merger and acquisition phase. We're very close. And that's going to be the one where it can change our life. Big time. And I love that it's on the ledger. But I agree with you. But let me look into it real quick, what it's doing today. Going against what I wanted it to do today. But again, it's up 9%, but don't be fooled. Look what it's doing. It came up to back test the pattern it couldn't hold. You know, it hasn't been able to get back up here. This was the resistance structure I built and said, well, if we get back up there, we're going to build this little triangle, descending wedge. Never got back up there. Now it keeps back testing it the whole way through. It's been an overstanding resistance. This would be the next area. If it got up, it would have to break. I want it to be clear. I want it to come right here. If it comes down to 2.3 cents, I'm buying. If it comes down even farther, oh, I'm buying more. If it wants to come below 1 penny, I'm going to buy the roof. I'm legitimately going to buy the roof off of this thing. Oh, I know the potential in the next cycle. You think this was big? They're putting all their eggs not into one basket, but into a lot of very valuable tech. And the fact that they're targeting the digital medical field and digital pharmacies, digital hospitalization, digital doctors, and they're trying to use XRPH as the medium of exchange. So that's how it becomes a currency. And you're talking about in healthcare across the world for people that aren't going to a doctor's office, but they're doing it virtually. But with the mergers and acquisitions, they want to have XRP healthcare facilities. I don't know what the exact name would be, but they want it to be funded by XRP healthcare, that ecosystem. That's insane to be this early. And we got to see, and some people, you know, you take a little bit of money out and you make what you make, right? Make a few dollars when it makes these big moves, but you keep the general basis. But just the fact that we've seen this before, when it was at, you know, somewhere, we'll just say from 2.6, which it was really lower because I bought it at 1.8 and 2 and 2.2, but we'll just say 2.6. Let's see. 2.5. That run up we had, it was like a 20x. Remember, it was like 23, 24x when it was up there. I don't think we've seen anything yet. I really don't think we've seen anything yet in regards to where it's going. And that's the crazy part. When I seen that run, it validated everything I was thinking about just the scarcity of it. And if just a little bit of people become interested, and then you're also going to get the sub thing. Wait a minute, XRP's at $1.97. What the hell is this XRPH? Without any further information, they see it at 2-3 cents. And XRP's pumping. They're buying the shit out of that. Same reason people buy silver instead of gold. They have no idea what silver is for the most part. But they see gold so expensive, so they go to the next best, cheapest thing. Not even knowing they stumbled onto a great deal. Nick says some company is going to be investing $1 billion into Bitcoin. They didn't disclose when they will be buying, just that they raised the money. Oh, I don't doubt it, because when you have the world's largest Ponzi scheme, you're going to have to get bigger and bigger entities producing bigger and bigger amounts of capital to keep the Ponzi from going under. This is the key sign that we're getting towards the top of a Ponzi, and that it's going to have to shred it all back out. We don't know when it ends, but we know we're getting close. Let's see. Big pharmaceutical industry. Yep. But guys, I gotta go. I gotta go with my son. And thank you, Lonzo. I did find all your super chats. Thank you for the last $2 donation as well. But I want to go with my son and hang out and do what I got to do. Have a blessed morning or afternoon, everybody. And I'll catch you guys later. Thank you so much for all your support. And remember the levels that we talked